Is it time the Big 12 adds Gonzaga and UConn in basketball to bolster a conference that was poor in March Madness? Gonzaga has made the Sweet 16 like the last 15 years. What have they done with that? Well, no national championships. UConn, on the other hand, they're looking at 7, 8, 9. I mean, they just keep winning championships from Big East to the national scale and succeeding in March Madness. At what point do you turn and look at those two schools and say there is value here in the Big 12 because of basketball? Do you bring BYU in, or Gonzaga, who has BYU, who has been a rival in hoops? Do you bring in a UConn who has beef with West Virginia, history with West Virginia, and that gives you another team in the Northeast, another team in the West? You're not exactly balanced still. There's still more of a Western base, but it adds a little bit more of a regional rival for some of your Eastern-based teams. The idea here is, in essence, that you can do what Clemson was in football. Clemson's current valuation in football is spectacular. The College Football Playoff Committee said this school is worth a whole lot of money because they have won in the College Football Playoff. I've mentioned this a million times. 20 years ago, nobody cared about Clemson. 15 years ago, they were like Bowling Green from a football revenue standpoint, but they won to the point that they're good. Now, UConn and Gonzaga, they have won to the point that it's somewhere down the line we say, wait a second, if we take this team, they have proven that they're going to continue winning and they can be a valuable asset. Ryan Fox, 24, on Twitter says the Big 12 needs to go after UConn. It would bring a true blue blood to the conference in basketball, and he tags at Brett Yormark. I don't think Brett Yormark saw this one. And also, Kansas is obviously still a blue blood. Now, does the Big 12, does this conference need Gonzaga and UConn? That is an easy answer, and it is no. If this conference needed Gonzaga and UConn, they would have gone and gotten them. But it gives you little to no when you compare the revenue brought in by a football championship, by a football playoff appearance, by existing in football compared to basketball. It is not even close. Looking at last season alone for the Big 12 Conference, this league made $32 million off of its teams getting in the NCAA tournament and where they won. Like Kansas won 2 games, Baylor won 2, appeared in 2, TCU appeared in 2, West Virginia, Iowa State both in 1. So in essence, each game gives you about $2 million. UConn brought in an estimated, that's for the conference, UConn brought in themselves an estimated $8 million for going to the Final Four. You win a championship, you can push close to 10. That's a lot of money. I'll give it to you. It's a lot of money. But it's not enough to buy your way into the league. And it's not enough. There's too much parity in college basketball for a conference or Brett Yormark, a businessman, to trust you to come in. What if, let's do this. The Big 12 added Gonzaga and UConn in basketball, but those two teams go on a 10-year drought of Sweet 16 runs. What happened? Of course not. But it has for some major brands. Look like Nebraska in football. We never thought Nebraska would peter out in football. There were times you never thought Miami would or Texas would peter out. And then when they did, they were still valuable because guess what? It's football. What if the basketball teams, the basketball schools that we don't think will ever peter out actually do? Because that happens. That is part of this. Like Villanova is not what they were under Jay Wright. Are they a valuable asset to the Big 12? No. Would UConn football bring anything to this conference? No. If you add them in basketball only, does it make the conference more money? Maybe from an NCAA tournament standpoint, but what value does it bring from a footprint standpoint? Or when it comes to TV networks, Gonzaga and maybe here's the most damning case for those two teams. Now, personally, let's talk about this. I think it would rock to see Gonzaga and UConn play basketball in the Big 12. When it comes to just me watching good sports around this league, how awesome would it be to have those two schools? But from a practicality standpoint, from wanting to shoot you straight with what is actually going to happen and what actually should happen, those two teams cannot and will not go to the Big 12. And if they would have, Brett Yormark would have already done it. Why would either of those universities turn down the opportunity to make Big 12 money? What they are both missing is football and dominant football. Adding them, like it's better today to go grab a Pitt, a Louisville from the ACC. It's better to go grab Washington State, whose TV viewership numbers are very good amongst the schools that dissipated from the Pac-12. It's better to grab them because of the football footprint than it is UConn and Gonzaga. And that is backed up financially. And you can go in and say, here is the X pile of money that these two programs have made on the basketball floor because of their March Madness success. But what happens when that success goes away? If that success goes away, are we taking two programs and hoping they're good for the rest of time at just one thing that isn't even close, is a fifth of the revenue driver that football is a minuscule amount? Football and men's basketball pay for everything else at a university, but football above all else. Why take any chance on two schools that don't bring you a dime in football? Because if that happens, if that Sweet 16 drought, that 10-year drought comes to fruition, what have they given you? I don't know. I don't think ESPN's going to start handing you money, tossing you money to hope that UConn gets in a better basketball conference. The Big East is good. And Fox has already got their thing with them. If ESPN wanted Gonzaga in a major conference, they would have done that 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Why would it be today? It won't. And it won't be the Big 12. So it blows my mind, man. Every 3 months. Oh, Brett Yormark's in Spokane. Oh, this is it. Gonzaga's coming. Nope. No, Ross Dellinger, whoever, Pete Thamel, somebody saying maybe the Big 12 is going to expand. Could they get Gonzaga? Hasn't happened yet. Oh, this guy said that. Was it the Field of 68 or whoever? Like at some point, just kind of got to give up on that one. Not going to happen. But it'd be kind of fun to watch. It's just not realistic for what the conference wants to do. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to talk about Utah. Yeah, Utah football, who's supposed to win the Big 12. I think they might do that. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.